The children we forgot to welcome. Fertility, immigration, artificial intelligence, and the possibility of a civilization that chooses life without fear. By Elias Winter. May 2nd, 2026. Read by an automated voice. There is a room in many homes now that was once meant for a child. No one says this directly. The room has been renamed. It is the office, the guest room, the storage room, the place where the treadmill waits under a folded blanket, the place where boxes from the last move remain unopened because no one has had the energy to decide what part of the past still deserves a shelf. Sometimes there is a desk in it. Sometimes there is a second monitor, a drying rack, a pile of Amazon packaging, a suitcase, a Peloton, a plant trying to survive bad light. But underneath the new name, the room remembers. It remembers the shape of a crib that was never assembled. It remembers the imagined bookshelf, the small socks, the nightlight, the first fever, the uninvited chaos of another life entering the household and reorganizing every ambition around its breath. It remembers the future as an expected guest. Across the country, the same silence appears at larger scale. A school keeps the same brick building but has fewer children in each grade. A rural hospital closes its maternity ward. A playground remains maintained by the city, its rubber surface intact, its swings moving slightly in the evening wind, though no one is on them. A young couple calculates rent, student loans, childcare, medical bills, career timing, parental leave, and the cost of becoming less available to employers who have never once said the word sacrifice, but have built entire worlds requiring it. The fertility problem begins here, before statistics. It begins in a culture where the future has become expensive, optional, delayed, and frightening. A birth is not only a biological event, it is not merely a line added to a census table. A birth is a vote of confidence in time. It says, the world is dangerous, yes. The rent is high, yes. Institutions are corrupt, yes. The climate is unstable, yes. Politics is deranged, yes. The body will suffer, yes. And still, life is worthy of being handed forward. When a society stops having children, it is not only making an economic adjustment, it is confessing something. It is saying that time no longer feels trustworthy. It is saying that the future has become less like an inheritance and more like a bill. It is saying that the private heart has absorbed a public failure. This is why the fertility crisis cannot be understood as a mere matter of women's choices, men's failures, capitalism, feminism, secularism, housing policy, dating apps, contraception, career ambition, or selfishness. Each of these may touch the problem. None of them alone explains it. Fertility collapses when many systems, each claiming to liberate the individual, quietly converge to make continuity irrational. The modern person did not simply reject children. The modern person was trained, priced, distracted, delayed, and frightened out of receiving them. And now, the nations that once believed themselves permanent are beginning to count the absence. Aging populations, fewer workers, more retirees, pension strain, healthcare strain, labor shortages, empty towns, fewer siblings, fewer cousins, fewer young adults to maintain the roads, staff the clinics, build the homes, start the firms, teach the students, care for the old, bury the dead, and carry the accumulated weight of systems designed in an age when there were more children than grandparents. Demography is theology written slowly in public records. It reveals what a people has worshipped, what it has feared, what it has postponed, what it has made impossible while pretending it merely offered choice. The strange thing about demographic decline is that it often arrives politely. There is no explosion. No single day when the nation wakes up and discovers that its future has vanished. Instead, the first signs are administrative. A school district consolidates. A small town loses its last pediatrician. A pension fund revises assumptions. A company cannot fill a role. A hospital lacks nurses. A government raises retirement ages with the dead language of necessity. A young person looks around and realizes adulthood has become a subscription service to obligations previous generations met with one income and a mortgage. Then the political arguments begin. One side says, have more babies. Another says, bring in immigrants. Another says, machines will solve it. Each answer contains a partial truth. Each becomes a lie when treated as total. The command to have more children is morally unserious when issued by a society that has made children economically punitive. You cannot preach fertility into existence while preserving an order that punishes parenthood. You cannot sentimentalize the family while zoning young families out of homes, pricing mothers and fathers out of childcare, designing workplaces around total availability, treating caregiving as private inconvenience, and then wondering why the cradle remains empty. A civilization cannot outsource children to private courage and then call itself pro-family. If a country wants children, it must become hospitable to them. This sounds obvious only because we have forgotten how radical it is. It means housing abundant enough that family formation is not delayed into biological exhaustion. It means childcare that does not consume the second income it was supposed to enable. It means parental leave that does not mark mothers as liabilities and fathers as unserious if they take it. It means health care that does not turn pregnancy into financial exposure. It means schools that are not warehouses. It means work cultures that understand that a society which requires adults to behave as childless units of productivity will eventually become one. The first pro-birth policy is not a slogan. It is a rent payment a young couple can survive. But even if such reforms began tomorrow, children would not appear quickly enough to solve the near-term arithmetic of aging. Babies do not become nurses, electricians, teachers, engineers, caregivers, or taxpayers for 20 years. The demographic problem was built slowly, and its repair cannot be instant. This is where immigration enters. Immigration is the solution everyone either romanticizes or demonizes because almost no one wishes to speak about it honestly. Immigration works demographically. This is not a moral slogan. It is arithmetic. Working-age people entering an aging society improve the ratio between producers and dependents. They pay taxes. They fill jobs. They start businesses. They have children. They care for the old. They replenish the parts of the labor force that fertility decline has hollowed out. But immigration does not work automatically. It works only when treated as civic incorporation, not labor extraction. It fails when elites use it as demographic anesthesia, a way to avoid asking why their own young cannot afford families. It fails when borders become theatrical, laws become optional, asylum systems become shadow labor channels, and ordinary citizens are told that concern for sovereignty is bigotry. It fails when immigrants are imported into an economy that wants their labor but not their belonging. It fails when integration is dismissed as oppression by people who have never had to build trust across difference. Immigration works when it is covenantal. It fails when it is treated as labor importation disguised as humanitarianism. The choice is not open borders or sealed borders. That is the dead language of people addicted to conflict. The serious answer is a doorway with a threshold. A country has the right to decide who enters. It also has the obligation to remain honest about why it needs people. A sane immigration system would be legal, orderly, limited by institutional capacity, weighted toward working-age entrants, and attentive to sectors where demographic decline already bites. Elder care, nursing, medicine, construction, infrastructure, engineering, agriculture, advanced manufacturing, education, and the unglamorous maintenance work, without which civilization becomes rhetoric over decay. It would enforce labor law so immigrants are not used to undercut citizens. It would require civic seriousness and language acquisition without cruelty. It would support geographic dispersion instead of concentrating every burden in a handful of cities. It would reduce chaos while preserving demographic oxygen. Not open borders, not sealed borders. A doorway with a threshold. This answer will not satisfy those who believe any demographic change is national death. But their position has its own arithmetic, whether they admit it or not. If a country wants low immigration, low fertility, early retirement, generous old age benefits, cheap services, abundant care labor, and high growth, it is demanding a miracle from a spreadsheet. Something has to give. Either fertility must rise, people must work longer, benefits must adjust, productivity must surge, or immigrants must arrive. Politics can postpone this sentence, but reality will keep rewriting it. Then comes the third promise: artificial intelligence. Here the imagination becomes feverish. AI, we are told, will replace workers. AI will raise productivity. AI will allow fewer people to produce more output. AI will write code, answer calls, process claims, diagnose disease, tutor children, manage logistics, design drugs, automate bureaucracy, and perhaps compensate for the shrinking human base of advanced societies. Some of this is true. Artificial intelligence may become one of the few forces powerful enough to soften the economic consequences of aging. It can reduce administrative waste. It can help doctors, nurses, teachers, engineers, and scientists do more with less. It can make small teams capable of work, once requiring large departments. It can help older adults remain independent longer. It can accelerate medical discovery. It can increase productivity in societies where labor force growth has slowed. But AI cannot solve the fertility crisis because the fertility crisis is not only a labor shortage. Machines can multiply output. They cannot consecrate time. AI cannot give a child cousins. It cannot give an old woman a son who visits, because love has memory. It cannot turn a lonely city into a kinship structure. It cannot nurse the elderly with tenderness, even if it can monitor their pulse. It cannot restore trust between men and women. It cannot make a young couple believe the future deserves incarnation. It cannot replace the metaphysical function of new life. The danger is not that AI will be useless. The danger is that AI will become the latest excuse for refusing to repair the human order. A society already tempted to treat people as inefficient may use intelligent machines to deepen its contempt for dependency. It may decide that fewer children are acceptable because software can preserve GDP. It may mistake output for continuity. But civilization is not GDP. Civilization is the long obedience of the living to the unborn and the dead. If AI has a noble role, it is not to rationalize demographic surrender. It is to make room for human life. It should reduce the dead labor that consumes parents. It should make healthcare less bureaucratic. It should help teachers teach, rather than document. It should help caregivers spend more time touching hands and less time filling forms. It should help governments detect waste, hospitals manage demand, builders accelerate housing, and scientists cure diseases before families are bankrupted by them. AI should be an amplifier of human stewardship, not a substitute for civilization. The real answer, then, is not fertility alone, immigration alone, or automation alone. It is a new settlement between life, work, technology, and belonging. A society that wants a future must do several things at once. It must make family formation materially sane, not through nostalgia, not through speeches about tradition delivered by men whose institutions punish mothers and ignore fathers, through housing, childcare, healthcare, parental leave, tax structures, safer communities, better schools, and work arrangements compatible with human embodiment. The household must stop being treated as an obstacle to economic life. It is the source of economic life. It must restore honor to caregiving. The people who carry civilization are rarely the people civilization rewards. Parents, nurses, teachers, aides, maintenance workers, elder care workers, social workers, and the relatives who quietly hold families together are often treated as sentimental background figures, while capital, media, technology, and politics claim the stage. But no society survives through abstraction. Someone must feed, bathe, teach, repair, comfort, lift, drive, clean, watch, and remember. It must use immigration deliberately. The stranger who enters to work, build, heal, study, serve, and belong is not an invading abstraction. Nor is he a disposable economic input. He is a person entering a covenant. The receiving country owes him law, order, fairness, and a path to belonging. He owes the receiving country loyalty, effort, and respect for its civic inheritance. Without both sides, immigration becomes either exploitation or dissolution. It must deploy AI without worshipping it. Technology should reduce the burden of survival, not intensify the loneliness of the surviving. A humane technological order would ask not only what can be automated, but what must be protected from automation, because it forms the soul. It must reform old age systems honestly. Mercy for the old must not become theft from the unconceived. A society that promised benefits under one demographic structure cannot pretend those promises remain unchanged when the population pyramid inverts. This does not mean cruelty toward retirees. It means seriousness. Later retirement for those who can bear it. Better health cost control. More honest taxation. Less fraud. Less denial. A refusal to finance today's comfort by silently billing those who were never born. Above all, it must recover faith in continuity. This is the wound beneath the policy. Many people are not childless because they hate children. They are childless because they are tired, atomized, economically cornered, romantically disappointed, institutionally betrayed, and spiritually unconvinced that the world is good enough to receive another life. They have been told that freedom means keeping every option open, only to discover that an endlessly open life can become a corridor with no rooms. They have been told to optimize themselves, protect themselves, brand themselves, heal themselves, monetize themselves, and remain available to reinvention until the body quietly closes doors the culture insisted would remain open forever. A society becomes sterile first in imagination. It forgets that life has always arrived under threat. Children were born during wars, plagues, migrations, depressions, occupations, famines, exiles, and empires. This does not mean suffering should be romanticized. It means safety has never been the condition of love. To welcome a child has never meant the world was safe. It has meant the world was still loved. That sentence is difficult now because love has become confused with endorsement. To love the future does not mean believing the future will be easy. It does not mean ignoring climate, debt, violence, addiction, loneliness, political madness, technological disruption, or civilizational exhaustion. It means refusing to grant despair final authority over the womb, the household, the border, the school, the clinic, the workshop, or the imagination. The task is not to force every person into parenthood. A society worthy of children must also honor those who do not have them: the infertile, the unmarried, the called elsewhere, the wounded, the caretakers whose children are not biological, the teachers, the mentors, the aunts and uncles, the neighbors, the priests, the nurses, the friends who help hold the world in place. Fertility is not only a private reproductive act, it is a civilizational posture toward life. Some people bear children. Some people make the world more bearable for children. Both are forms of welcome. The happier ending, if there is one, will not look like a sudden return to an imagined past. The old village is not coming back in its old form. The one-income household, the early marriage norm, the unquestioned religious canopy, the thick, extended kin network, the stable industrial job, the cheap house near grandparents, these cannot simply be summoned by longing. Nostalgia is memory without responsibility. The future will be stranger. It will include children born later to parents who had almost given up. It will include immigrants speaking accented English while caring for native-born elders whose own children live far away. It will include AI systems handling paperwork so nurses can look patients in the eye. It will include smaller families, blended families, adoptive families, religious families, secular families, chosen kin, old people working longer with dignity, cities redesigned for strollers and wheelchairs, schools that serve fewer children but serve them better, and perhaps new towns built because someone finally understood that housing policy is fertility policy. It will require political courage from people who prefer slogans. The right will have to admit that family values cannot survive inside an economy that devours family time, and that some immigration is not betrayal but demographic necessity. The left will have to admit that borders, integration, and civic continuity are not fascist residues but preconditions for social trust. Technologists will have to admit that intelligence without incarnation cannot save a civilization that has lost the will to reproduce itself. Economists will have to admit that a child is not merely a future taxpayer. Parents will have to be honored without turning the childless into scapegoats. Immigrants will have to be welcomed without turning citizens into strangers in their own country. The old will have to be protected without requiring the young to live as sacrificial infrastructure. The young will have to be given more than lectures. They will need homes, wages, time, trust, and permission to build lives not entirely subordinated to institutional appetite. None of this is impossible. A people can change what it rewards. It can build more homes. It can shorten commutes. It can tax differently. It can honor parents without imprisoning women. It can welcome immigrants without dissolving borders. It can use machines without kneeling before them. It can reform retirement without abandoning the old. It can teach boys and girls that love is not merely consumption with better lighting. It can rebuild rituals of belonging. It can make children visible again in public life, not as lifestyle accessories, not as private burdens, but as citizens of the future already making claims on the present. The empty room can be renamed again. The school can be painted. The maternity ward can remain open. The town can receive a new family. The immigrant nurse can become a neighbor. The young father can take leave without shame. The mother can return to work without being punished, or stay home without being erased. The old man can be cared for by someone whose labor is honored and whose citizenship is not perpetually questioned. The machine can fill the form. The human hand can remain. There is no guarantee that advanced societies will choose this. Decline is easier. It arrives through postponement, through reasonable private decisions made inside unreasonable public arrangements. It arrives when no one feels responsible for the whole, because everyone is busy surviving their part. But decline is not destiny. It is often merely a habit that has not yet been interrupted by love organized into law, architecture, technology, and custom. The future will not arrive as an abstraction. It will arrive crying, hungry, foreign accented, digitally assisted, elderly, dependent, inconvenient, and holy. It will require housing, schools, boarders, nurses, fathers, mothers, neighbors, teachers, machines, taxes, forgiveness, and mercy. It will not flatter our ideologies. It will expose them. The task is not to choose between children, immigrants, elders, and machines. The task is to put them back into an order where life is not treated as an interruption. A civilization is not saved by fertility rates alone. It is saved when it becomes capable of receiving life again. Native-born life, adopted life, immigrant life, aging life, disabled life, dependent life, unborn life, ordinary life. The cradle is empty only until a people remembers how to open the door. Elias Winter, author of Language Matters, a space for reflection on language, power, and decline. Thanks for reading Language Matters. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.